Sometimes things happen that we can't quite put our finger on. We don't really know why they happened or how they happened. It's sort of outside of the realm of, our understanding. And, it's hard for us to compartmentalize what transpired, but, we always find a way. And, if you try hard enough, you can, there's an old saying that goes, if you can't explain something, don't try, because you're gonna end up hurting yourself thinking too hard about that one, and you don't want to do that because that's gonna mess you up in the long run. So if you could just reach into your pocket for me and oh, what's that in your hand? What you got there in your hand? You just pull out your pocket. What's that? Oh, that's 2 tickets. 2 tickets to the Bonkers Theater. There are a lot of normal people in the world who work pretty normal jobs. Who are pretty insignificant to, most people. They don't really think about them. And, one of these jobs is construction worker. This man named Jeff Dwyer. And he worked construction for many years. And, he's a very simple man. He lives only by, to make ends meet. And he has simple things in his life that really bring him a lot of joy and prosperity. He doesn't look for a lot of shiny vanity objects or premium items in his life. He's very happy with what he has, and it's very much the small things that he can afford that really make him happy and really make his day and put a smile on his face. And so Jeff had been working a really long day at the, the work yard, the construction work yard where you do your construction work. And, it was a really hot day and, he was really glad to get off his shift. And he had been waiting all day. He said, I can't wait to get a meatball sub from, Subway sandwiches. Love Subway sandwiches. He wasn't being paid or sponsored by Subway to say that, but, he said that aloud. He said, oh boy, I love Subway sandwiches, can't wait to get my meatball sub from Subway. He said that aloud. His co-workers overheard him, and they're like, that sounds pretty good, kind of wish I got that one, but, I had a pretty big lunch, and, I saw Jeff, he skipped his lunch, so, kind of understand why he's gonna eat a whole foot-long Subway sandwich, and it's a good deal, too. It's $5, so, they understand. They're not taken aback by the fact that he wants a meatball sub. So, he starts going, he gets in his car, he's like, oh boy, can't wait for this meatball sub. He puts on his favorite album, his favorite album, Akimbo Logo by Kim Mitchell. It's his favorite song. He's getting ready, he's like, oh man, I can't wait to, go get my Subway sandwich, my foot-long meatball sub. My favorite. I get it toasted every time. It's really good. And, most people kind of overlook that, the simple things in life. But, no, Jeff. Jeff, is a big fan of the simple things. That's all he really cares for. So, Jeff, he's like, all right, can't wait to go get this Subway sandwich. So, he gets in his car. He's listening to Kim Mitchell. He's going to the store, He's going down the road. He's got the windows down. He's on the breeze, and he's riding high. He's having a great time. He gets the intersection. He's got his windows down, blaring Kim Mitchell. He's looking cool. He stopped at the stoplight at the intersection. Another car rolls up with their windows down. They're nodding at him. It's like, yeah, you know what's going on. I'm going to get Subway. They hear that. They're like, oh well, we didn't know you were going to get Subway, but that sounds pretty good, Glad you're getting that. That sounds, happy for you. He's like, well, thanks. And so, he's going, the light turns green, so he starts going again. And, he's like a block down the street from Subway. He's, riding high again. He's happy. He's got a big smile on his face. Everybody, he's like a beacon of happiness. Everybody who sees him, it's infectious. They're, looking at him, they're like, whoa, and that's a guy I want to, hang out with. He seems pretty fun. He's a nice guy. And so, he gets to the subway parking lot, turns off the car. He waits for the song to end. Kim Mitchell's song, he just kind of sits there quietly as it's playing on. Then he takes the keys out of the ignition. He rolls up the windows because he doesn't want anybody stealing. It's kind of a rough area. He doesn't really want anybody getting in the cars. So, of course he rolls up the windows. He gets out and goes into the, Subway sandwich place. And when he gets in the Subway sandwich place, there's a man in front of him who's also happened to be ordering a meatball sub, and he's like, he's really happy. And the guy behind the counter, the worker there, he says, "Oh, I'll be right with you. I'm helping this customer right now." And Jeff, he's a really good customer. He's always very nice. He understands that workers at fast food places go through a lot. It's not a glamorous job, but it's a job that people have to do. And so, he nods at him. He says, "Oh, no, it's fine. I'm fine waiting, Because, he's been waiting all day, so waiting an extra minute or two for this guy in front of him to get his meatball sub, it's not, there's nothing wrong with that. So, he waits patiently, and when the man, who's checking out, he's like, "Oh, yeah, I want peppers on that," He's like, "Oh, I want, some green peppers, some banana peppers, no jalapenos, so those are too spicy." You don't taste the subtleties of the meatball sauce. Subway meatball sandwich has a very subtle flavor, and he's like, "Oh, I gotta, if I put too many jalapenos on there," he's like, "those are too spicy, it's gonna really interrupt the taste, so I'm gonna skip out on the jalapenos today, not on the meatball sub. That's more something you go on like at cold cuts, that's always pretty good, but not on a meatball sub, especially after it's been toasted, it's nice and warm. Don't need something to make me sweat." So, he gets green peppers, banana peppers, he gets some olives on there, some tomatoes, because he does like the cold feel of a nice, tomato slice in contrast to the warm meatballs that have been heated in the toaster. So, he gets that, and, he looks pretty happy. He's like, "Alright, I'm ready to check out, no sauces or anything, it's already meatball, it already got sauce on there, nice gravy." So he gets to the counter, and the guy behind the worker, he's like, "Yeah, do you want to make this a meal?" He's like, "Yeah, of course." He's like, "I love having a nice Coke, a nice cold Coke with my, meatball sub. And you know what? I think I'm going to get the jalapeno chips." He's like, I do like, spicy jalapeno, but I don't really want that on the sandwich. So, having it in chip form, that's kind of nice, because I can eat some chips here and there and then go back to the sandwich. And, my mouth's not always burning. So, and, the guy behind the counter's like, "That's actually pretty smart the way you're, thinking that out in your head. You must be pretty high IQ, you really, pushing the limits, boundaries on consuming food there." He's like, "Well, yeah, of course, I'm like a super genius. I'm buying Subway, I'm getting a toasted meatball sub. Of course I'm smart, getting an ice cold Coke. It even compliments the, hot sub and everything, I think these things through. I'm not some, consumer who comes in here and is just like, oh, I'll just have whatever you throw on a plate." He's like, I think things through. And, guy behind the counter's like, "Yeah, you know what? Yeah, that actually makes sense. It's like, I'm glad we have customers like you." So he's like, yeah, thank you. That really brightened up his day, but, he doesn't need to hear this from some guy working at Subway, he doesn't have the respect for this guy that Jeff does. Jeff really respects, these workers. He doesn't see them as just like these brainless, automatons that are just there to make you food. So anyway, man gets his chips and his Coke and his meatball sub. He pays for it. He's like, have a nice one. He's like, yeah, you too. And then it's Jeff's turn. Jeff, he gets up there and he's like, hello, and he looks at the guy's name tag so he can say hello, the guy's name, and the guy's name's Tom. So he says, hello, Tom. He's very excited to meet this man, because it's like, this is the guy he's going to be working with over the next 2 minutes to make a collaborative effort of building a good sandwich. That's the way he views Subway. It's not just watching somebody make your food. It is collaborative, creative effort to create a finished final product, and it's you have your creative input of what should be put on the sandwich, and you watch them work it out and see the sandwich come into fruition. So, he's telling him everything at once. He says, well, I'm going to have to go with the $5 foot-long meatball sub. That's one of my favorites. And, Tom's like, yeah, that's one of my favorites, too. It's a really popular one here. A lot of people get it. It's our number one best-selling sandwich. He's like, and don't think I haven't noticed that. Don't think I haven't noticed. Everybody gets the meatball sub when they come into Subway. Jeff's like, okay, like, he's like, yeah, seems like it's the most popular one. It's like, he's not really thinking anything of it. But Tom's like really serious. He's like, no, this is the most popular sandwich. This is the one that everybody gets. And Tom's like, okay, Jeff's like, he's like, oh, okay, that's nice. And so, he orders, he's like, yeah, I'll have the football meat long, I'll have it on, I'm feeling a little, a little adventurous today. I'm not gonna get it just on the Italian. I'm gonna get it on the herbs and spices roll or bread. He's like, I'm feeling a little adventurous in my taste. That sounds pretty good. It's got some cheeses, some herbs on there. It's really, it's a cool bread. He's like, they tried to trick you with these flatbread things, but it's just as many calories as the normal bread, so you might as well just get the normal bread with cheese and herbs and stuff. They're actually like, make it taste better. Tom's like, yeah, you're kind of right about that. And so, he's like, so you want that toasted? And he's like, well, yeah, of course. You can't get a meatball sub cold. Even though the meatballs aren't cold, you want the bread toasted and to make sure that the meatballs haven't, they get some proper heating, even though, because, they're heated, but, they've been sitting out for a while. You don't know how long, and, Jeff got off a whole day of construction work, so he doesn't know when that batch came out. So, it's always a good idea to toast it, and, it's just better to have it toasted. So Jeff, he's like, yeah, pop that thing in the oven. And so he does, and, since there's nobody else to help, they're sitting there and talking for a while. He's like, yeah, so, how do you enjoy working at Subway? Tom's eyes kind of glaze over. He's like, oh, it's so good. It's so great working for Subway. And, Jeff kind of understands. He's like, oh, yeah, this guy doesn't really like working for Subway. He's just kind of saying that because, he doesn't want to reflect poorly on the company and act like it's like a horrible place to work, but he realizes that a Subway person kind of has to put up with a lot of stuff that a normal person doesn't have to experience every day. And even for somebody like Jeff who works with their hands, he couldn't even he sees the whole sandwich making process is very tedious. He loves it every time he comes into Subway to work on these sandwiches with these people, but when it comes to it overall, he's not going to want to, sit down and make sandwiches all day, especially with people telling him how to make the sandwiches. Jeff's been around the block a couple times. He knows how to make a good Subway sandwich. So anyway, the timer goes off on the oven, and he's like, oh, it's finished. So he goes back and gets it. He says, okay, so what kind of toppings? What kind of cheese? Or well, I mean, I kind of missed that detail. He put cheese on it first. He got pepper jack because he's cool. Pepper jack gives it that kind of kick. That was melted on top of the meatballs. And then he took it out and he was like, okay, what do you want on it? He's like, okay, let me get some lettuce, some greens on there, some lettuce, because that's, it's cold, but it complements it. He's like, I'm going a step ahead of the tomatoes. I'm getting tomato slices and lettuce, 2 cold items to complement the sort of temperature difference. It's the lettuce is very juicy and watery, and he thinks that pairs really nicely with the juicy tomato slices too on the meatball sub. And he says, of course, all the peppers, no jalapenos, and then black olives, of course. Your sort of regular meatball sub. He's not going too crazy with it. Tom's like, well, would you want to make that a meal? He's like, nah, not today, not really. He's like, I'm not really feeling up to eating a meal. So he's like, okay. And so he pays for the sub and he gets out of there. And he can't wait. He's really excited to eat this Subway sandwich. He gets back in his car. He's hyped as can be. Throws back on the Kim Mitchell. He's listening to it. He is so excited to eat this Subway sandwich that he starts opening it up in the car. He says, I live a while away. It might be cool by then. I'm gonna eat this on my ride home. So he's eating it, and he's driving down the road. And he gets back to the intersection that he came from, and he stopped at the red light. And as he's eating his Subway sandwiches, he glances over and sees a billboard. On that billboard, this picture of Tom and a QR code. Tom doesn't look very nice on the billboard. He looks a little upset and a little angry. And, Jeff's a little confused. He's like, well, hey, that's Tom. That's the guy who just made my sandwich. I didn't even know he had a billboard. So, he's got his Subway sandwich in his hand. He's like, oh, maybe I should, scan the QR code, see what that's about. But, the light turns green. He's at the stop sign, or a stoplight, and the light turns green, and the guy behind him's like, honking. He's like, come on, get a move on, dude. Like, I got places to be. I can't be waiting behind some dude trying to scan every QR code he sees on every billboard. And he's like, come on, I can't be sitting here all day, dude. I gotta get a move on. So, Jeff's like, oh man, I'm sorry. He's like waving back in his rearview mirror. He's like, sorry, man. So he goes down the road. He's like, oh, I gotta make a U-turn. He's like, I really gotta see what's on that billboard. So he's going back. He's got his Subway sandwich. He's taking a few more bites out of it. He's a really good Subway sandwich that he really loves. So he makes a U-turn, goes down the street. He's like looking back at the billboard. He's like, yeah, that billboard, that is of Tom. It's just a picture of Tom looking angry and a QR code on it. He's like, oh, I gotta see what that is. So, he goes back around, makes another U-turn so he can come to that red light. And he makes sure that he gets over in the turn lane. He makes sure there's no other cars coming. They wouldn't be blocking. He's like, okay, light's green. I'm just gonna sit here. I'm gonna scan this QR code. So he scans the QR code and it comes up, and it leads to a video link. He's like, oh, it's a video of Tom, and he clicks on the video of Tom, and he sees something that he was not prepared to see. So what he saw was a video of Tom sitting in a sort of dank room with poor lighting, and he's wearing no shirt. He's explaining. He says, he has a big bucket of meatball gravy, meatball marinara sauce from Subway. And Tom says, he looks into the camera and he says, I'm so sick of people ordering the meatball sub. Shouldn't they know the best sub in Subway. It's chicken teriyaki. He says, I don't understand how people don't realize that. You get a chicken teriyaki if you have a refined taste. He says, but you know what? All these sheep come in here and eat and make the meatball sub. I've done something special for them. I've taken this tub, which will serve the next 8 months of Subway. I've mixed in trace amounts of my own feces into this gravy, into this sauce, into this marinara sauce. So anybody who eats a meatball sub in these coming months, subject to my own feces being put into their bloodstream. Jeff panics. He feels instantly sick. He feels as if his life is coming crashing down around him. He can't hold it in. He throws the window open. Kim Mitchell's still playing. He drops to his knees and projectile vomits all over the street. Violently vomiting. To the point where it's cutting up his throat. His throat is burning. It's hard for him to breathe. He is tearing out of his eyes. His nose is burning. His nostrils filled with chunks of meatball and Tom's feces. So next time you go to a Subway and you order a meatball sub thinking that it's going to be a great thing, make sure that the man preparing that sandwich is not named Tom.